No, and I didn't either. They were interesting stuff. I don't want to Yeah? Oh, yeah? Yeah, no, it's cool. Thank you. You're welcome. No problem. I'll take it to Florida with me. Yeah. You know, I think that was more important to the people that have it. Get online, look up stuff on the internet, so we don't have people who are kind of the caretakers of the information. Yeah, well, that's true. If you do it, the patients are sharing. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Better. How are you? Yeah. Better. What are you doing this Monday? Everybody does. I did. I read the whole thing. And it's pretty, you think about well, that's why how's it going, big dog? James? Yeah.
See, now I'm number 10. I'm not even going to make a motion to open the meeting. I'm going to leverage. What's that? Oh, Pat. Okay.
He's waiting to see if he's needed.
Wait to see what?
Waiting to see if he's needed if he was going home.
Yeah, well, tell him we need, huh? Yeah. Waiting to find out how much we're going to, huh? Are we waiting for Pat to come in? Somebody want to tell me? Oh, Pat went to the bathroom. Paging Mr. Jarrell. January. He's in. I'd like to open the January and the. Well, I was just waiting for you, Mr. Maxon. I'd like to open the January Board of Legislature meeting to order. Call it to order, and welcome everybody back from the holiday break. I hope you've had a very restful and rewarding time off. Our administrator may disagree with that notion, but otherwise, if you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. May be seated. Okay. In some cases, stand back up. Be seated. Roll call the members.
Legislator Peck. Here. Nepowanek. Here. Johnson. Here. Maxon. Here. Adsit. Monticelli. Here. Reed. Here. Doldo. Here. McBride. Here. Ferris. Here. Jarrell. Here. Gray.
Here. Privilege of the floor. Anybody would like to address?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to take a brief minute, and say thank you to the legislators and the administration for the support that I've received over the last 11 years. Many of you probably know I'm going to retire in a couple of weeks, so I really just wanted to take a minute and say thanks. I work with community service directors across the state, and I can tell you that, having heard the stories from other counties, we are very lucky to have the system and the individuals who are providing our leadership in our county. It really runs efficiently and effectively, and I can tell you that I've never felt a time during those 11 years where I didn't have the support of the administration and of the legislators. There were times we didn't always disagree, or always agree, I'm sorry, but we worked through those things when that happened, and I really appreciate the support we've had. So thank you very much, and I think you're being left in good hands. Tim's going to be taking over. He's already moving his stuff into my office. I had tried to lock the doors, but he seems to be, able to pick the lock or something. I don't know. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Roger. Thank you for your service to the community and to the county. Your passion and your dedication to the job and partly that's what makes our job a lot easier when we have department heads like you, and we do throughout the county, that certainly make our job a lot easier because of your professionalism from all the department heads, the dedication of the staff that we have, and your leadership at the department levels. When your departments run efficiently, our board can run efficiently, and the whole operation runs efficiently, and that's what really makes it work. It really doesn't come from this level down. It really comes from staff level out. And it takes great department heads to make the organization go. So, Roger, for your dedication, we're going to miss you. We're going to miss your passion in the community for the issues that you deal with and your leadership on them. And we hope that you have given Tim some good coaching to leave with. And not really. Then keep your door locked. All righty. Thanks, Roger, again. Anybody else? Privilege of the floor. None? Is there any desire to read the minutes of the last session? If not, I'll entertain any corrections or deletions or additions. Hearing none, then they'll stand as presented. Presentation of petitions, notices, and communications.
There are none.
Reports of county officers and others.
We have a report of the county treasurer on investments in cash in hand for last month. Likewise, a report of the county administrator and budget transfers for the prior month.
Local laws, resolutions, and motions. First, I will entertain a motion and a second to waive the appropriate standing rule.
Can I stop you for just a half a second? Procedurally, what we'd like to do is also in that mix add a resolution number 31 and 32, which is in regards to what we sent out yesterday, approving agreements for both the city and the town throughout the dog. So we don't have to do it again.
You don't want to keep that going?
No, thank you, sir.
Kind of like seeing you twisting the wind. So, okay. So I'd entertain a motion and a second to waive the appropriate standing rules to prevent the introduction of all of the attached resolutions. Is that a motion, Mr. Peck? Second, Mr. Monticelli. And all in favor of waiving the rules, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. We shall begin. Resolution number 1.
Designation of depositories for 2019.
May I have Mr. Peck, second, Mr. Ferris. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 2.
Designation of official newspapers for 2019.
Mr. Monticelli, second, Mr. Johnson. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 3.
Delegating authority to the county auditor to approve certain real property tax refunds.
Mr. Reed and second, Mr. McBride. Any discussion? None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. So, as you know, most of these resolutions are standard operating resolutions for the beginning of the year. The next are 4 through 19 are resolutions that have been previously not approved, but adopted as part of the budget. So if you would like, we could take those in a block. And if that is the desire, I'd take a motion for resolutions 4 through 19. Mr. Ferris, second. Mr. Nabwanek, is there any objections to taking to a block? None? Okay, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed?
As a block?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, then we're going to vote on them all together.
You're asking if I am opposed to voting on all of them at once?
Right.
A little.
How would you like us to record that? We don't have in-betweens. Pardon me, but there's no gray area here.
No, I understand. So I will not vote. I will let them go. I will not vote no on treating them as a block.
Okay. Thank you. That answers my question. Okay. Now, let me see. So I'll have a motion on resolutions 4 through 19 now. Motion, Mr. Reed, second, Mr. Monticelli. Discussion on resolutions 4 through 19. Mr. Maxim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said back when we voted on the budget and had discussions with the budget, these various benefit service agencies that we support, I would like to see, again, this year in the budget process, a reconsideration of all of them, and perhaps ones that we haven't supported in the past. because I think that we have perhaps fallen into a rut of supporting the exact same organizations over the last few years. So while many of these groups do excellent work, I will be voting no on that simply because I would like us to have more oversight over these agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maxon. Further discussion? All in favor on 4 through 19, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. Did you want to read them all? No. Okay. Resolution number 20.
Payment of legislator expenses.
Motion, please. Mr. Doldo, second. Mr. Monticelli, discussion. None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 21.
Reappointing members to the Soil and Water Conservation District's Board of Directors.
Motion, please. Mr. Jarrow, second. Mr. McBride, discussion. None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 22.
Establishing salary for Director of Community Services.
Motion, please. Mr. Johnson, second. Mr. Ferris, discussion. None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 23.
Authorizing agreement for janitorial services for Jefferson County Office Building.
Motion, please. Mr. Doldo, second. Mr. McBride, discussion. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 24.
Authorizing agreements in connection with the New York State Snowmobile Trails Grant and Aid Program and amending the 2019 budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Mr. Peck, second. Mr. Darrow, discussion. None. Roll call.
Legislator Peck. Yes. Nabawanek.
Yes.
Maxon.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Monticelli. McBride. Yes. Adsit. Doldo.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Ferris.
Yes.
Darrow.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Motion carries.
25.
Authorizing professional services agreement with VHB for the county's online map viewer.
Motion, please. Mr. Doldo, second. Mr. Ferris, discussion. None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 26.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Home Investment Partnership Grant Program funds.
Motion, please. Mr. McBride, second. Mr. Doldo, discussion. None? Roll call.
Legislator Doldo?
Yes.
Peck?
Yes.
Adsit? Monticelli? McBride? Johnson?
Yes.
Reed? Maxon?
Yes.
Ferris?
Yes.
Jarrow?
Yes.
Nabawanek?
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution 27.
Amending the 2019 county budget to reappropriate New York State Septic System Replacement Program funds.
Discussion, or motion, please. Mr. McBride, or Mr. Monticelli. Close. You guys both have the same hairline. May I have a second, please? Mr. Nabawanek. Discussion? That's right, you'll never see it up here. Roll call vote, please.
Legislator Adsit? McBride? Yes. Reed? Yes. Nabawanek?
Yes.
Maxon?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Monticelli? Ferris? Okay. Peck?
Yes.
Jarrow?
Yes.
Doldo?
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Motion squeezes by.
28.
Authorizing agreement with the New York State Unified Court System for cleaning and maintenance of court facilities.
Motion, please. Motion. Mr. Monticelli, Mr. Peck. Discussion. None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 29.
Appointing members for the Office of Aging Advisory Council.
Motion, Mr. Monticelli, second. Mr. Ferris, discussion. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 30.
Authorizing agreement with Nescentia Health for the provisions of home-based nursing, physical and other therapy, and home-based support services for Jefferson County Public Health Service.
Motion, please. Mr. Namwanik, second. Mr. McBride. Discussion. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. I keep wanting to twist you two around. I don't know why tonight, but 31.
Authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the City of Watertown for dog control services.
Mr. Doldo. Motion, second. Nobody's going to raise his hand faster than Mr. Doldo. Second, please. Mr. Monticelli. Discussion. Mr. Doldo.
It would just be wrong if I didn't make a comment on this. It's been a very challenging few weeks. We've worked very hard on this. There's some legislators that are involved. Those who made phone calls to City Council, Scott, myself, Carolyn. We've learned a lot. I guess what amazes me of the whole thing is the unfortunate information that was passed on to City Council that was incorrect information. Through my conversations with City Council, I had corrected a bunch of information, as I'm sure Scott has. I have to say that Bob has worked very, very hard at this, got us all the information we need. He's done his homework. He's not just shooting off at the hip. And what it boils down to in the end is what's a good dog program for the City of Watertown, which I strongly believe that our county dog control has done a great job. It's not perfect, but there are things that we can work on together, and also invite the city in to learn more about dog control, because it is just more than picking up dogs at, I believe they threw a number out at $1,300 a dog, which is just way out of line. For $16.55 an hour, they have coverage in the City of Watertown 24/7. That's what's important. When they're needed, they can call. We have a couple staff members. We have vehicles, fuel. We have a dog facility. We have heat, lights. I can go on and on. Food. It's very difficult to keep up with dog control, to expect somebody to do it part-time. I give a lot of credit to Todd. Todd Cummings has given me quite a bit of information. There's a lot I've learned. I've been on 6 years and I'm still learning. Willing to work with them to continue dog control, because I think it's in the best interest of Jefferson County as a whole. When we look at this, it's not just the City of Watertown, because we do have residents from outside the area that have issues or may have an issue, and dog control is right there when they're needed. So we can't really look at this as a city-only problem. It's a county problem. And anybody that's out there that has used dog control knows that if they're needed, Todd and his staff will respond. So a big thank you out there again, Mr. Hageman, Scott Gray, the Board of Legislators that helped out, and also Vince Moore, who spent an awful lot of time coming in to try to make things work. I really appreciate everything. It was a long holiday weekend, both weekends, but we came up with something that was satisfactory to us for 3 years, and hopefully we will be able to educate and continue dog control services for Jefferson County in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doldo. And let me just echo his words. And Anthony was tireless in dogging the issue.
I did burn up one phone too, just so you know. I had to get another one.
He was after city council with a passion. He was after the mayor with a passion. He was there to make sure the record was set straight. He's passionate about the service that's being provided. He was working in the best interest of the service and of the county and of the whole community, to be honest with you. So Anthony was tireless on this project, and unfortunately went a little bit longer than we anticipated, and again, I'll echo his kudos to the administrator, Mr. Hageman. There's a lot of times that we're having conversations, whether it be 8 o'clock at night or 7:30 in the morning or whatever it was, and sometimes I'd be the one to say throw in the towel and just give him the letter and say goodbye and we're done. And he always kept at it, and we back and forth and trying to figure out what hook we're going to get to try to get him to sign on to the deal. And as much pressure as he was under, he kept on the high road. I can tell you that. He stayed at a high level all the time. Things got, some of the emails were, that's probably when I stepped in and started to speak a little bit more when the emails were going back and forth between the mayor and myself and the city manager and the administrator, and he stayed up on the high road, and I defended him, had to come to his defense, and which was unfortunate. You have to do something in that situation, but he kept going out there with the facts. He kept going out there with justification. Anything that the city asked for, he provided it to them, and the deal kept getting complicated in different directions every time we turned around. But that's all said and done. The city's a good partner in this program. We will continue to provide the good service to them. I told Mr. Dollo after the deal was done that if there's any suspicion in terms of our quality of service that we provide the city, that should be nothing more than motivation for us to justify and to figure out how we communicate to the city better in terms of the quality of service that we're providing. Anthony just referred to the $1,300 a dog. That was such an overblown simplification of that. That's taking the number and putting against the number of dogs that are captured. And dog control is not that simple. It's much more complex. It's much more comprehensive. It's a good service for this community, and the bottom line is that everybody benefited in the end. Everybody comes together, everybody signs a deal, and we're all back to one good community. So, thank you, Mr. Hageman. Thank you, Mr. Doldo. Further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 32.
Authorizing intergovernmental agreement with certain towns within the county for dog control services.
Mr. Ferris, second Mr. Maxon. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Reed.
I do want to thank the city legislators for the time they spent trying to educate people on and again, we deal with issues that on the surface seem simple, but they're actually complex. And so I know that a lot of time went in. I was on the peripheral of it. That was your job to do, and you did it very well. So my thanks for all the time you spent with it. And Mr. Administrator, we're now still one of the only, 3 counties out of 61 counties in the state that are doing this type of shared services, which the governor so demands. And so maybe we should be the example of how that works. So, it would have been a shame to not continue in the spirit of shared services and best practices. So, again, thanks.
Mr. Maxon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo what Mr. Reed said. I appreciate that the city legislators, you guys were the face of it, and took your lumps in the local media. If our commentators locally have a problem with $1,300 per dog, I would respectfully suggest that they take it up with the state of New York that mandates that cities and towns have dog control. That citizens of the state pay an annual tax for the privilege of owning a dog, but not a cat or a rabbit or a ferret or a cow. Inexplicably, dogs are taxed annually, and the cities and towns are required to provide some sort of control for them. So if they don't like $1,300 a dog, they can call the governor.
Well spoken, Mr. Maxon. Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it is very important in today's life, as Mr. Reed said, that we do continue to do this shared services. I think it would be an awful tragedy to the city and the towns to have to go out on their own. And there is certainly economy in numbers, and I think this is something that we can do as a community better than we can do as individual entities. So I'm glad to see it going forward, even though I had my doubts a year ago or so if this was going to be the best way to go. Again, like you said, Mr. Chairman, I think communication is going to be the key going forward. I think maybe at one point in time we lost some of that between the towns and the city and ourselves, and I think going forward, I think communication is going to be the key to sustain this going forward, years into the future, because I think it is important. I think it's something that we as Jefferson County can save all our constituents a lot of money by doing a good job with dog control and keeping it as cost effective as possible.
Yeah, the difference between it's a very comprehensive, streamlined service that's very consumer friendly under our direction. It's 911, it's central location where your dog's going to be. It's a lot of things that, if the service is fragmented, it's, in this case, it could have been somebody having to travel to Lewis County just to see if their dog was there. So, but it's up to us. We got the contracts that we wanted, and it's now up to us to justify the level of service that we provide these people. We're here, that's what we do. That's nothing more than being a good operation to a consumer. You have to justify, you have to show you the value, and that's what we will do. So, further discussion? Mr. Doble.
I'd just like to say one more thing about everybody working together. I'm also on the Animal Cruelty Task Force, which is head up by Assistant District Attorney Chrissy Curry. Part of that board is myself. Mark Walczyk was on it. We have the state police, city police, sheriff's department, SPCA. We have vets on that board, and we've gotten into some discussions at our last meeting of how we can all work together to make this a better program for everybody in the community. I think it's a great thing. We had some great ideas. Everybody was excited on moving forward to see what we can do to have a relationship with everybody. So I know Mark Walczyk's gone now. I'm going to check with Christina to see if we can get another city council member on there. It was a wealth of information for myself and for Mark. So I think there are some good things that will come out of it from different sides of the aisle to help us. And actually Todd is on there also from County Dog Control. So Dan Moyer was invited. I've never seen Dan Moyer there, but we all want to figure out a way to work together instead of working apart, and I think it's a great group of people. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an oversight of what we're doing and working on with everybody to come up with what's best for Jefferson County. Some of the vets that are on there have offered to do some spay-neutering for cats to try to control the cat population. SPCA has gotten a grant to help control some of that also. So there's some things in the works to help things work better in the county with dog control and hopefully cat control also. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to jog my memory on this, village centers are included within this new contract also, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I think that will certainly be the biggest change and a monumental change, which caused grievance with some of the towns that did leave that didn't enter into those areas. So I think, you know, a great praise for the city legislators, the administrator and chair for the work that they did to get this finalized with the city and going forward. It's almost, you know, why was the trip even necessary? You know, and that it only went from 5 years to 3 years. But, you know, the bottom line is we have a continuity of service, we have a good service, and it would seem that we have two legislators that were very ardent about unloading the service not long ago are supportive of it tonight, and that's monumental, I would say, too. So, but thank you very much for all the good work that you've done, and you know, I bet with to Mr. Maxon's question about cows not being taxed, I would not put it past the current legislature in Albany to pass a carbon tax per cow. So.
They're a centrist in New York? No. So, further discussion on this resolution.
Just one point for the record. We're talking, thank you very much for all your comments. In regards to the city, there were really two real upsides that surfaced. One, the adoptions at the dog control this past week went up dramatically with all the publicity. And two, I think there was some grand team building going on amongst all us in regards to what was taking place. But there are two other folks that kind of want to just simply reference, who was very helpful in the process. One, Anthony's already kind of referenced it, but SPCA. They were very supportive of keeping the program going forward, and the Veterinarians Association stepped forward, and they were very, very supportive of keeping it on a countywide basis for all the kind of reasons you've referenced. But I just think it's worthy of note for the record that those were two organizations that we very much are appreciative for their stepping forward as well.
Yeah. They both spoke on our behalf at various times, interceded and spoke on our behalf. So, yes. Further discussion on the motion? None? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried. That concludes the resolutions for this evening. Does anybody have anything to come before the board? Mr. Maxon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am not an accountant by trade. It has been 20 years since I've taken an accounting class. It's been a while. And could someone, perhaps Greg, debits and credits, double entry journal nonsense, we're spending more on debits, we're taking money out of an account and a credit. Is that what's going on in here? And I'm just looking at the very first thing here, our changes, the budgetary. So we're moving money from one account to another, out of a credit and into a debit. Is that what? So
you debit revenue, you credit an expense.
Okay, so
right.
So my question is, we're taking, for instance, item number one, $1,600 out of trackable durable expenses for the sheriff and into maintenance and repair. Well, then I think this is phenomenal that the sheriff's like $396,000 of overtime that we're moving out of overtime that we didn't spend in overtime into other things. You should read this once in a while. It's pretty great. If I'm right, because I added up all of her overtime lines that were debits, we're taking from the overtime account and we're putting into other things. Otherwise, if it's the other way, then I'm not smiling and I'm grumpy. So that's my question, is are we spending an extra $400,000 on overtime, or did we save $400,000 on overtime? Because either way, I think it's either good or bad. Page 5, for instance, is $313,300 is debited from overtime and put into personal services, credited to personal services. So again, this is why I'm not an accountant. So one way is good, one way is less good. I mean, we spent the money anyway. So I was hoping that someone could clarify this for me going forward. Did we spend too much?
In a more generic sense, because I don't have it in front of me, what frequently happens year-end, you if we've gone through a period of time where we've not been at full complement with the salary account, we'll take from the salary account and put it into the overtime because it's created more overtime.
Sure.
Likely, again, in the corrections end, that's more the case than it would be with law enforcement. I suspect that what you're looking at is much along those lines. So the net impact overall for the department isn't going to change.
Sure.
But we're shifting it from one line item, which is wages and salaries, into the overtime, would be my guess.
Yes, but I do recall, having sat through budget hearings and requests for raises in the past, that when our employees are asked to do $400,000 worth of overtime, it does tend to wear on them. So I just wanted to find out for sure if someone would follow up with an email, tell me which is it good or bad. Oh, it's bad. I am. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. So, thank you, Greg.
Being moved out of personnel services into overtime.
Yeah, okay, that would.
Right? It's being moved into overtime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what's coming out of personnel services, then the two next items are where it's going to. So
that's what I thought.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
With more vacancies, we're not spending down the personal services line. So exactly. So I understand, and you know, it's over and done with. We've spent the money. We've paid our employees.
Yeah.
It's just looking at it as a trend going forward.
But the debit and expense that you're adding.
And that's what I thought, although it has been.
So, I
Yes, budgetary.
yeah. So I hate to send you home grumpy.
No, I was already grumpy coming in.
Should I call Karen before you get there?
She's watching on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So, okay, Karen, he's grumpy. So, anything else come before the board? Yes, Mr. Zoldo?
I know we have a new director for the TI Council this year. I was curious if we could get him in here and see what his plan is for the future.
We're already working on that.
Very much on the planning docket, yes. Yeah, and he would very much like to come in as well. Unfortunately, I don't think he knows many of the board members, so that would be an ideal opportunity to accomplish that.
We'd already taken that up with him. Anything else? I'd just like to thank all the department heads for being here this evening. A lot of the resolutions have to do with your activities, so if you have any questions, board members, nail them. There they are. Nail. Oh, no, Roger, you can't go like that yet. You're not hitchhiking to Florida. So, anything else come before the board? Motion to adjourn. Mr. Maxson, second, Mr. Doldo, all in favor?